Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. A few minutes early as always, but it looks like my scheduler decided to change itself. It says I scheduled my live stream for like 3 p.m. yesterday, which is horseshit because that's not the information I saved on it a few days ago. I saved it for today at 6, but we're gonna give it a minute, see if anybody wants to show up. Hope everyone had a great Valentine's Day. I know mine was interesting since it didn't involve going out with my husband, but not every Valentine's Day can be perfect. And speaking of Valentine's Day, today we will be discussing romance, movies, books, TV shows. I have 13 movies I want to talk about that are some of my favorite romances. Then I can talk about some of my favorite ships, maybe from storylines from some of my favorite books. Now, we can discuss romances that take part in stories that are not actually romances, just like amazing, couples or romantic storylines involved in other genres. But for the movies, I'm sticking mostly to the classically dramatic romance or the classically musical romance, the rom-com, that type of a thing. And like I said, I'm just giving anybody who might actually want to show up a chance to show up. And I'm going to turn my magnifier back on now that I know that you guys can all see me and hopefully hear and see me, and we won't get fucked up like the last 3 times I tried to do this. Yeah, for those of you who aren't aware, I tried to do my top horror movies of basically all time from the year 1920 onward. I had a 3-hour stream that was it 3 hours? No, I started to do a stream, but because of the weather, it started to pour. Dawn and I, part of that is up on my channel. We got cut off, and I had no idea we got cut off. So we were there talking for over an hour and a half, and then we found out only about 40 minutes was showing. And the next week, I had my friend Mo talking with me, and we were talking for over 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, I lost signal, and YouTube insisted I was still live, wouldn't let me go live again unless I deleted the video that it was saying was live. So I lost 2 hours of that, and then we restarted and just went on from where we left off, and we went for almost another hour, and only about 40 minutes of that even stayed on the channel. So it's been a really, really bad, nasty headache. YouTube and my Wi-Fi do not play nice. So I'm hoping today my list is short enough, the weather's fair enough, and my Wi-Fi is kind enough for this to work out. That is what I'm hoping. It looks like somebody has liked my video and is here. I'm sorry, I keep looking at the people supposedly watching. I shouldn't be doing that yet, but not everybody who comes to watch comments, so that lets me know whether or not somebody might actually be here. Either that or it's me, but it shouldn't be me. All right, so I've been going for almost 4 minutes already. I got 3 minutes until 6 o'clock. I guess I can actually start this list. Again, we're talking my favorite romances, rom-coms, drama, romances, and then we'll get down to favorite ships and stuff like that. Going in order, and we can talk about other ones that were on my list, but I decided I didn't know what to say about the romances, or I knew they were too problematic to get into and didn't want to have a big debate over why. So a list of almost 35 movies or almost 40 movies went down to a list of 13. So my first movie, and one of my favorite tragic romances of all time, was came out in 1937. Stars Jeanette MacDonald, Nelson Eddy, and John Barrymore. That's Drew Barrymore's grandfather, for those of you who are curious. In Maytime, which is actually a remake of a silent film that came out in the early 20s, but has virtually nothing to do with it plot-wise. It's also a remake of a stage show that it has almost nothing to do with plot wise. Uh, an aging opera singer looks back on her long life, including her relationships with her voice teacher and a student. Yeah, John Barrymore plays her voice teacher. She's an up and coming brand new prima donna, and she meets this student in Paris who's played by Nelson Eddy that takes an instant liking to her, but they meet on the night she's proposed to by her voice teacher, who's fallen in love with her, even though he's known for being a womanizer. He's fallen in love with her and wants to marry her. You know, and it's really cute. It's one of the lesser offensive roles that Nelson Eddy has played. I love Nelson Eddy to death. I love his musical comedies, his romances that he's in with Jeanette MacDonald. But in a lot of them, especially considering the era the movies were made, it's that case where boy just keeps bugging girl until she gives in and goes on a date with him. It's very chauvinistic in that response, but this is one where he's least like that. The first time they meet, he does do that, but it's the single meeting. Well, no, he does kind of do it every time, but at least she seems into it this time. Like, I'm trying to get rid of you because I'm about to get in trouble that you're here, but I still want to say yes. Versus, oh my God, would you go the fuck away? So the pair meet, they have a couple of rendezvous, but then she flat out tells him, look, this has been great. I had a great time today, but I am getting married. I owe him everything. Everything I am is because of him, and I'm not going to, cancel my engagement because I'm in love with you. And they go their separate ways for a few years, and she gets married. And then she returns to America because she's from America, as was the young love, the Nelson Eddy character, Paul. Is Marcia, Nikolai, and Paul. And they are reunited to star in an opera that had been written especially for her by a royal composer in Paris. Even though they're completely professional on the night that they perform together, their passion ignites on the stage. And even though her husband kind of recognizes their marriage has never been really full of any passion, she's been dutiful, she's been obedient, she's been affectionate, and he's like, there was a great deal that happened you never wanted to tell me. And she's like, no, not really, but she does ask for her freedom. And he agrees to give that to her, but then he goes to Paul Allison's apartment and shoots him. And because she discovers that her husband left and she finds his gun case lying wide open, she follows him and she's there like seconds behind him for her beloved to die in her arms. And there's this book ending setup where she's an old woman talking to a much younger girl who wants to go to New York with a voice teacher to take lessons and become a great singer. But she has a boyfriend that loves her very much and wants to marry her. And they've just had a fight. He doesn't want her to go. And Marcia's just telling her, look, if you really love this guy, you'll make this work out. You won't put your career above him. But she doesn't say that. She just is like, well, if he loves you, he understands if this is what you want to go do, but there are things you could lose. And that's all she wants to make her understand. And after the story is told, they go back to when she's an old woman. And she dies under her tree that day, and the spirit of her Paul comes to see her, and you see her young spirit step out of her body, and they have this gorgeous reprise of their love ballad from earlier in the movie. And it's such a beautiful, tragic romance movie that's a musical made with only a couple of original songs and a lot of out of copyright classical music with lyrics put to it. And oh my gosh, I feel like I'm tearing up just thinking about this movie. I finally got it like last year, or maybe it was the year before for Christmas. I've wanted this movie for so long. I've watched it on, Turner Classic Movies, on Nelson Eddy or Jeanette MacDonald's birthday, because they have marathons. And every time this movie is on, I will watch it. And it's just one of the greatest tragic love stories. I mean, it beats Romeo and Juliet by like a whole lot. Because I always thought Romeo was somebody that, give it a couple of months, he'll fall out of love with Juliet and go find another girl. That's what I always thought. Anyway, do I want to share my thing? No, I'm not going to share my thing, but I am going to go on my YouTube just to make sure everything's working on this side, because like I said, my Wi-Fi gave me such crap the past couple of times I tried to use it for a stream. I want to make sure everything's working right. Well, you're saying I'm live, so all right. Well, nobody else has talked, so apparently things are still working. I don't know if anybody's there, but everything's working. Oh, it says 2 people are on now, so maybe somebody is. Just trying to keep, like I said, YouTube is such a pain in my ass. I have to keep looking. It's probably because Dawn! Hi, honey! I'm glad you made it. I don't know how long you've been watching, but I just got done talking about Maytime, my Nelson A. McDonald movie that I love so very much, and I really need to show you someday if you think you can stomach an old silver screen romance. Do you have any romances you like from like way, way back in the day, if you can think of any? I wish you were here next to me, but that's okay. All right. From 1937, we jump all the way 51 well, not quite 51 years, but 50 years almost to 1984, because I don't really like a lot of romances in between. If there are any, I can't think of them. I did like the 1960s Romeo and Juliet with Olivia Hussey, but like I said, I always thought as a romance that one kind of was meh. Yeah, a couple of teenagers aren't really actually that mature. Probably would have gone off and fallen in love with other people if it hadn't been so hot and heavy and so freaking fast. So, on to 1984. My next favorite is Splash, starring Tom Hanks, Daryl Hannah, what's this guy's name again? Eugene Levy, and it was John Candy has a little role in it. And I love Tommy. I love Tom Hanks. I've loved a lot of his stuff. Not all of his romantic comedies, although I liked them back when they were more relevant. But Splash still holds a special, special place in my heart. For those of you who don't know, a man is reunited with the mermaid who saved him from drowning as a boy, and he has no idea what she is. Yeah. Daryl Hannah plays a mermaid who, when she's a little girl, rescues a boy who fell off of a ferry, and that was Tom Hanks. And eventually, something happens where she sees him, I guess. I can't remember what the circumstances are. It's been a while since I watched it. But she sees him again. I think he falls out of another boat. I think that's what it is. Something happens. He falls out of another boat, loses his wallet. She finds the wallet. And then she finds an atlas in a sunken ship and goes to find him because she used the wallet. And when she's out of the water and her legs dry and her fins dry off, they turn into legs. So there's no special spell or nothing. And of course, there's the one guy who's trying to find the mermaid, hunt down, these 80s and 90s movies like Harry and the Hendersons and all that. They got that one guy who wants to prove to everybody this exists, and they're gonna trap it, and rather kind of like in The Shape of Water, actually. The one bad guy, it's like, yeah, I'm one of the antagonists, but he's a lesser antagonist, because once he realizes I've caught this thing and I've proven to everybody that this thing exists, now they want to cut it up and kill it, and he's not so cool with that. And, Tom Hanks has to deal with the fact that for one, his new girlfriend is exposed as a mermaid, which he didn't know she was, and then he has to figure out how to save her, and I believe that they run away together into the ocean. And they swim away together. And you wonder how he's going to live in the ocean since he's not built that way. Maybe that was covered in the made-for-TV movie Splash 2, which starred nobody. And I never even knew existed until I was looking up the details for this one. But that one's just an adorable rom-com with a little tiny bit of supernatural quirky element to it. Hang on. Vinny, did you need something? Okay. I heard him outside my room, so I thought I'd ask. This thing keeps wigging out. I hope it's not my Wi-Fi. Everything says I'm still hooked up. Do. Keep having to do this. It's sad. All right. So my next movie is 1987's Dirty Dancing. Who didn't see the one coming? Patrick Swayze, Jennifer Grey, Jerry Orbach. All right. For those of you who aren't aware, a girl falls in love with a dance instructor at a resort in the Catskills. That's pretty much all it is. They dance, they fall in love, they have a romance. My Wi-Fi is fine. Thank you, John. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to know. Wonder how much I'm Okay, so I'm lagging a little bit, but not that. If I do wig out, please send me like a Facebook message or something, like as soon as it wigs out, just so I know. What else is there? Okay, yeah, we moved on to Dirty Dancing. Classic, amazing soundtrack. Yes, I'm that white girl from, no, of course I'm not that white girl from Get Out. I'm not that racist, my God. I probably have a little racism in me, but I'm not that. Holy crap, no. But I do love the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. I do love Dirty Dancing. I'm a sucker for the dance at the end. I'm a sucker for Patrick Swayze. God rest his soul. I miss you, Patrick Swayze. Oh, I've always wanted to dance with him. I've always wanted to learn how to dance with him. Him or Antonio. At least Antonio's still alive. Sadly, Antonio is not on this list. At least I don't think he's in any of these movies. Although he should be in one of my ship lists. I forgot to put him there. All right. Dirty Dancing, classic. Then we've got, I didn't put the, okay, 1987 again. I forgot how I had this laid out for a second. Overboard with Kurt Russell and his, at the time, wife, Goldie Hawn. You probably a lot of you have probably heard of this because there was a really, really bad remake in which they gender swapped the roles. I can't say for myself it's really bad, but I've heard things, good things. A cruel but beautiful heiress is convinced by a carpenter she cheated that they are husband and wife after an accident leaves her with amnesia. Yeah. This is a very misogynistic story, but it was my first rom-coms ever. It has a special place in my heart. I found it hilarious when I realized the first guy I kind of fell in love with from a rom-com when I was growing up had the same first name as the man I ended up getting married to. It was a coincidence. Hilarious. But yeah, there's this rich, spoiled bitch on a yacht who hires a carpenter to make a shoe closet in her yacht. When he makes it all the wood she doesn't like, she tells him, well, you're going to have to build it again, and I'm not paying for any of the materials. And then when he tells her, no, you weren't that specific, you're going to pay me, she randomly feels threatened that she's going to get attacked because he's removing his tool belt to get it off of his hips or whatever. And she shoves him overboard and throws his tools in the water. And later on, she falls off the yacht and is in the hospital, no ID, because it was the middle of the night. And she was like in a bathrobe or something. And, you know, she's got amnesia and she's left there by her husband and her crew because she's such a bitch. And when he finds this out on the news, because they're trying to identify her, he saw her in such a revealing bikini on the yacht that he can tell the doctor details about her body that most people wouldn't know. And that convinces them he knows her, that they're married, that she lost her ring in the sea, brings her home and has her slaving away in his little shithole house for him and his 3 kids and his friends, basically just trying to make her work off the debt she owes him for ruining his tools and not paying him for the job he did. And that's a horrible fucking premise. I gotta admit it, but I still love that movie, and there's still such a sweetness to it, in spite of what he's doing. I mean, I know I'm weird, and that it's such a horrible premise, but it manages to be charming, and you could tell they really cared about each other when they were filming together. You know, I wish the movie had done better for them. I wish it had had a few less negative connotations, which of course I didn't pick up on until I was older. I don't think I would have even picked up on it if it hadn't been for the remake, honestly, because the same mistakes, the same horrible things were happening, except the genders were reversed. So there you go. I love Overboard. Get over it. I like strong, manly men who will put a woman, not necessarily put a woman in their place, but you know, I like the ultra masculine guys. Let's see. The next is 1988, Coming to America, a romantic comedy starring Eddie Murphy, Allison Dean, Arsenio Hall, and James Earl Jones, which is absolutely hilarious and is directed by John Landis, somebody I'm more familiar with as a horror writer and director, but you know, like An American Werewolf in London. But an extremely pampered African prince travels to Queens, New York, and poses as a poor boy in search of love. Yeah, he's in an arranged marriage, and he's like, Dad, I need to get out of here for a while. Dad's like, yeah, okay, go sow your wild oats and do your thing, and come back in like 40 days, and you'll get married. Except he doesn't intend on getting married to her when he comes home. And he goes and works at a McDowell's. And falls in love with the owner's daughter and tries to woo her. And there's this great little cameo of Mortimer and Randall from the previous Eddie Murphy Trading Places. And Samuel L. Jackson plays a foul-mouthed burglar robber, and it's hilarious. And Eddie Murphy plays about 16 different people, I swear to God. Arsenio Hall plays like 2 or 3 people too. And the makeup is amazing, and I love that story. It's kind of like the Cinderella story, but not really. And it's kind of like The Prince and the Pauper, but not really. It's its own thing that's just really good. It's just this last time I recently watched it again because it had been years since I'd watched it, and I just picked it up at the flea market, watched it again. And I could not believe how much randiness was involved in this movie. And I was like, oh my God, every other line is somehow about sex. And I mean, it's one thing to know that you first heard the word penis when you were little because you were watching this movie and your brother laughed at you for asking so innocently what that was. It's another thing when you grow up and that same scene happens and you realize, hey, they're all topless. I didn't even notice the women were topless. Was I watching a censored version as a kid? I don't. Then what the? Yeah, but you've got to watch that movie. It's so funny. Yes, it's heavily dated by this point, but it's still hilarious. And Eddie Murphy is hilarious. This was before he got maybe a little bit too full of himself. Finally leaving rom-coms behind for a minute. We've got 1993 Shadowlands, starring Anthony Hopkins and Deborah Winger. And this is a world-renowned theologist, writer, and professor, leads a passionless life till he meets a spirited poet from the U.S. And this is actually loosely based on the real-life romance between C.S. Lewis and the woman he ended up marrying and her son, who was a fan of his. And my opinion of this movie has changed a lot over time since I saw it. It's one of those slower movies that can be a little dull, but the actual story and the romance involved is really touching. And, you know, Anthony Hopkins plays C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, and he lives with his brother in England, and he's talking about his Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe serial, his Chronicles of Narnia series, and people are just laughing at him for writing this crap. People he works with, they don't think there's any money in it and stuff. And then he gets a letter from a woman whose son loves his books, and she'd like to meet him because they're going to be in London, or they're going to be in the country at least. I don't remember if it's London. And they meet and they end up forming a friendship, and of course what ends up happening is she's a divorced woman, and she actually, in the movie at least, she asks for a favor. She says, I can't stay in this country because I don't have citizenship. But if I get married, I will have citizenship, and I don't have to take my son back to America where his horrible father is. So as a friend, Anthony Hopkins' character, Clive, agrees to marry her, and eventually, they live completely separate lives. They're just legally married, and nobody knows they're married. So whenever they're together and they're talking, and she starts playing little head games with the people watching them because everybody thinks they're having a solicitous affair, and it's all so gossipy and scandalized. And there's a line where she's like, "Isn't it funny because there are people who think we're unmarried and up to no good, where we're actually married and up to nothing at all." But eventually, it turns out she has leg cancer, and she has cancer in her leg, and it's eaten through the bone on her leg. And that's when he realizes he's actually in love with her, and it progresses from there, but he does eventually lose her to the cancer. But the moment when he realizes he's actually in love with her is just so heartbreaking. And I'll be honest, the scene after she dies, he has a scene with his stepson where he cries, and I didn't buy into it, but I've come to buy into it since. Oh, I don't want to spill my Enzo. It was me almost dropping my cup all over my computer. Shut up. Hey, Enzo. It's me, you mutt. My dog thinks I knocked. Let me go calm him down real quick. Hey, come here. I made the noise. Come here. Come on, lie down. Lie down. But mommy, there was a knocking noise. I have to let the world know. He'll just keep at it if I don't go knock on stuff right in front of him. So yeah, definitely not for everybody, Shadowlands. It's a snoozer. But if you can get past that part of it, it's not as bad as Remains of the Day. Remains of the Day is like 20 times worse. Like, nobody can watch that boring film. Nobody. I mean, even Sir Tony can't save that one. All right, classic time, 1995, Sense and Sensibility, based on the Jane Austen story, with Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet, Hugh Grant, Alan Rickman, Tom Wilkinson. I mean, there's quite a few good names in there. I was just trying to think of what her name is. Imelda Staunton has a little role in it, who played Umbridge in the Harry Potter movies. So there's actually 3 Harry Potter stars in that movie. I can't exactly tell you what it's. Well, I guess I could tell you it's about. It's really complicated Jane Austen story, classic period romance. Girls of a certain age falling in love, trying to find a husband of an appropriate stature, getting their hearts broken, lots of drama. But the main romance, which involves Emma Thompson's character, she's the older sister, and she starts to form a romance in the very beginning. But they never have like an understanding with each other. They never outright say anything. And it's obvious he's trying to tell her something at some point in time, but they get interrupted and he has to go away. And you find out later what he was probably trying to tell her was he's grown very fond of her, and he might even be falling in love with her, but he's already engaged. He's secretly engaged to somebody. And when she finds this out, she's just completely shattered. And the person that told her about this was the woman that he's secretly engaged to. So she's forced to keep this confidence. She can't even share it with her sister. Her sister's fallen in love with a guy who was completely running around rampant with her, and they were doing all these solicitous things, like going off on carriage rides alone, and she cut a lock of her hair for him, which was the thing at the time for romance. And And then he just up and just left one day, and he never contacted her again until she saw him at a ball and snubbed her. And she found out that he was engaged to the lady he was there with. And the reason he was engaged to her was because the day before he left her behind, his aunt found out he had ruined another girl's virtue, and she was pregnant with his kid, and he had taken off on her. So his aunt had, I believe it was his aunt, had threatened to disinherit him if he did not get married to a respectable woman, and he had to find a woman with money so he could survive, which is what he did. But that stuff where with Emma Thompson's character, because it's really her story and she's experiencing her love for a guy she thinks she can't have and dealing with her sister's heartache. There's another character in this whole story who's a friend of the family who's clearly smitten with the Kate Winslet character, the one who had her heart broken by the jackass. Turns out it was, well, to me it would be his daughter, but I don't think she was ever meant to be his daughter in the books. I think it was just the daughter of the woman he had once loved. And so the daughter of the woman he had once been in love with was the one that got knocked up by Kate Winslet's boyfriend. And this is how the story came out, because he eventually came to Emma Thompson's character, the main character, and said, look, this is what happened, and I just want you to know that no matter how horrible this man is and what a cad he is, I do think that he genuinely wanted to marry your sister. But if it hadn't been for the fact that he needed the money. And he was really sweet to do that, and he's been pining for the little sister this whole time, even though, I mean, it's a little creepy because he's an older guy. He's like in his 30s. She's like not even 20. But that was pretty normal back then, so I can run with it and accept it. And Alan Rickman was definitely a lot older than that when he played him, because in Die Hard he was like in his 40s. So he was a much older man playing that character anyway. But Alan Rickman, oh, I miss you. It's his relationship with Marianne, and it's just the sweetest. And finally, the moment in the movie when she just finally actually looks at him and acknowledges him as more than just this guy, like, oh no, he's too old for me. What the hell? You know, she sees him and is grateful for him being there. And I'm just like, yes, nice guys don't always finish last, you know. And it's those tiny moments in that movie that get me. The whole movie's great, but it's Colonel Christopher Brandon that gets me, you know, just it gives me the warm fuzzies. And then of course you see them get married at the end. All right, here's another romance drama. This one's a fantasy drama from wait, what year was it? 1998. What Dream May Come, with Robin Williams, and I want to make sure I get all the names because they were so good. Cuba Gooding Jr., Annabelle Sciorra, I don't know how to pronounce her name, and Max von Sydow. Those are the big names in it. And Chris Nielsen dies in an accident and enters heaven, but when he discovers his beloved wife committed suicide, he embarks on an adventure to reunite their souls. That's how I wrote it anyway. I kind of stole little bits of the IMDb summaries for all of these, but I simplified some of them. This is the ultimate soulmates love story for me, because this is a guy who's already dead, and while his wife is alive and grieving, their souls are still connected so much that they can still sense each other. Like, he can see paint. She's a painter, so he actually sees a tree appear in his heaven landscape that she painted while alive on Earth. And you know, he's with their kids and stuff in heaven, although he doesn't know that right away. He does eventually see his daughter, and then realizes later somebody else is his son, because their kids died before he died. But the ultimate thing that makes this a romance for me is when he finds out she committed suicide. He's excited at first, even though he's sad that she died. He's like, well, when do I get to see her? And Cuba Gooding Jr., who you do find out is his son, just choosing a different form, he's trying to explain to him, he's like, "You're not going to. She's in hell." And he's so offended by this. He's like, "What are you talking about? What kind of place is this? What kind of God do we have that he would punish?" And he's trying to make him understand. He's like, "No, this isn't a punishment from God. This is not because she committed a sin. This is because her soul was in such torment when she died that she was driven to do this so hard that she's stuck in that horrible state, and that is hell. And she's gonna be stuck there. I've never seen anybody come back." And he's like, "Well, fuck you. You don't know us. You're gonna see." And he goes into hell to find his wife, the place where all these souls are tormented themselves for eternity because they can't make peace with what their lives have been and what they've done. And he's warned before he enters the building when he finds his wife. He's like, "If you go in there, that depression and that aura and that horrible thing that affects everyone in this place, it's going to seep into you." And he's like, "Well, I've got to get her out. I've got to try." And he goes in, and she's really out of it. She doesn't recognize him or anything. She's trapped in this place from basically before her husband died, right after their kids died, because she went loony when her kids died too and tried to commit suicide. And you don't know this until this scene because there are flashbacks and stuff. They almost divorced. She tried to kill herself and was in an asylum. But he decides, he goes out and he tells his son, because by this time he knows Cuba Gooding Jr. is his son. He's like, "I'm staying here with your mom. I'm not leaving her alone like this." And he goes. "Vinny, are you okay? Okay, don't bang like that, okay? You worried me." So he goes back inside and he starts telling his wife about his wife, and he's talking to her and trying to get her back, and she's listening to him, and they're starting to bond again. And then all of a sudden this blank look comes over his face, and hell got to him. That was right when she was starting to remember and come back, and she comes back because of his sacrifice, and they bring each other back, and they end up appearing in heaven because they're free because of each other. And it just gives me the goosebumps. It just gives me the absolute goosebumps. Oh, I knocked my mouse around. Okay, still just you. Hey, Dawn, if you think of anything, feel free to type it out. Is that it? All right, that's it for that page. Make sure I got this in order. Yep. All right, now we're going to jump ahead again a little bit to 2001, Kate and Leopold. Back to the rom-coms, lighter shit. Whew! That other stuff was too heavy. I need more fluff. With Meg Ryan, Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, and Breckin Meyer. And it's an English duke from 1876 is accidentally dragged into modern day where he falls for an ad executive. Actually, it's funny because this movie and the next one both deal with ad executives. But yeah, I mean, Hugh Jackman, he's an amazing actor. Who can't say that this man is an absolutely amazing actor by now with everything he's been in? But back then, he was still kind of just starting. I don't know if he filmed this after the first X-Men movie came out, or if it just came out afterwards once he became a hit, or if this was filmed after it. But it was in the early X-Men days when this movie came out. So he was just becoming the superstar that he would later become, And he's got these impeccable manners. He's so charming. He's romantic in a way that doesn't exist anymore. And he gets to affect this woman who's so used to modern romance that just isn't real. And he just sweeps her off of her feet in a way, she lets herself kind of fall for him. And well, I won't spoil that movie for you because it's too fun, especially if you watch the director's cut. Because, okay, let me tell you, in the theatrical cut, Hugh Jackman is at an exhibition for the Brooklyn Bridge because it's being built. And he sees a guy who's acting kind of funky. And later on, he sees the same guy at a party his uncle is throwing for him, trying to find him a freaking wife. And it's kind of like Coming to America, actually. He's like, "Look, you're fucking poor. Marry a rich woman. You got title, you need money. Um, and that's Leah Shriver's character, who's actually got a mini cam, little digital spy camera, and he's taking pictures because he's come back from the future. And because he's trying to understand what's going on, Hugh Jackman chases him, and he thinks that Leah Shriver's gonna die because he's trying to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, and he ends up falling through with him, but he ends up falling through a portal in time and landing in the future. And later on, they realize they've got to get him back to back then. It's like, no, you've got to get back in time, and that's all it really is. But in the director's cut, you find out he went back to that point in time and was watching Hugh Jackman's character because he is a great, great, great nephew of that character. So they removed that element because it smacked a little bit too much of incest for studio liking, even though, okay, a great, great, great nephew. You fucked his great, great, great nephew because it's her ex-boyfriend. And then she ends up going back in time with him to be with him. So she might actually be his great, great, great aunt. But I mean, okay, that's kind of icky. I'll grant you that that's icky, but it could be worse. It could be worse. All right, 2003. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey. An ad exec and a how-to magazine writer fall in love while each having ulterior motives. This movie gets such shit, but I don't care. I love this movie. People, I mean, I've heard of weirder romances in real life. So there's the ad executive who wants to be the guy that gets to pitch to give a sales pitch to diamond dealers. I want to be the one that comes up with their ad. But because he's the guy that does the beer and babes and sports stuff, that his company doesn't think he can do it. And they're looking at these two women. And they say, okay, why don't we make a bet? If you can make a woman fall in love with you before this given day, and it's about 10 days, then we will let you have the ad. And on the other side of things, you've got the how-to writer who's supposed to write a article about a how-to dating in reverse, about how to lose a guy, all the things to not do in order to keep your man. Don't do these things. And she is told that she's got to figure out how to do this, and she's got to do it for her ad. So they've got ulterior motives. So she's playing him in a way, and he's playing her, although they do really fall in love. And by the way, there is an Avril Lavigne song in this movie called Home. Feels Like Home to Me. And it became my father and my stepmother's wedding song, and it became other people's wedding song too. It's a gorgeous song. It's really sweet and loving and touching, and I just love this. This movie's so funny and so charming. It's not really sweet. It's got its problems, but I just love this movie. And Kate Hudson, Goldie Hawn's daughter. So I love a rom-com with Goldie Hawn, and I love a rom-com with her daughter. This generation they're good. They're really good. All right. Let's see. Let's look at another problematic movie, shall we? 2006's The Wedding Date with Deborah Messing, Dermot Mulroney, and Amy Adams. Single girl anxiety causes Kat to hire a male escort to pose as her boyfriend at her sister's wedding. Her plan is to make ex, the best man, jealous. Back. Yeah, this is basically Pretty Woman with the roles reversed, except there is more ulterior motive other than happening to find somebody on the street and going, hey, why don't you come up to my hotel with me? And why don't you hang out with me? Just keep me company. This is a little deeper than that. It's so freaking funny. And Dermot Mulroney, you know what? I might have the hots for Matthew McConaughey, but Dermot Mulroney is amazing. He's got it too. He's got it going on. And I don't know what to say about these movies. Some of these movies, they're romantic comedies, and I like them for the romance, but in case of the wedding date, the humor is what I actually like the most about it. It's got so much going on. There's this scene where Kat reunites with a cousin of hers who's like her bestie. And she's like, "Oh, hey, have you seen?" She's talking about Rex. She's like, "Have you seen him? How's he look?" And the girl, that her cousin, takes a look around the room and she sees Dermot Mulroney's character standing, and he's kind of surrounded by these mature women, all kind of flirting with him and stuff, and just talking to him. And she's like, wait a minute. Why spend one more minute talking about that horse is up when Mr. Tie Me Down is waiting for you right over there across the room? And then Dermot Mulroney turns around and he kind of looks at them across the room, and she's like, oh my God, I think I've just come. Oh my God, she is the funniest fucking character in this movie. I know that out of context, if you're not watching it, it's not going to be as funny to you guys, but trust me, TJ is fucking hilarious. Have you seen this one, Dawn? You got to tell me if you've seen this one. Okay. Okay, still live, still got people watching. My Wi-Fi still seems to be strong. What is that? That's not my... Okay, that's something else. I was just wondering what that was. All right, everything still seems to be going good. Why did my computer just be weird? Testing. Type a single letter if you still see me, Dawn, okay? If you're still there. I got 2 more movies to go, and then I can talk about the ships. Pretty short stream tonight. Okay. 2007, Disney's Enchanted, another musical romantic comedy starring Patrick Dempsey, Amy Adams, James Marsden, Idina Menzel, Susan Sarandon, Timothy Spall, Jodie Benson. I mean, there are a lot of freaking people in this movie. Julie Andrews has a narration for a minute and a half there. This movie's packed with talent, and there's such amazing songs. I got to see this one in the theater with my husband, and although he wouldn't let me, I immediately wanted to turn around and buy another ticket. Like, I walked out and I'm singing the big "How Do You Know" song of the, I want to see this movie again now. So, a young maiden in a land called Andalasia, prepared to wed a prince, is transported to New York City by the evil queen, where she falls for a divorce lawyer. Yeah, it's Disney, it's Enchanted, and I think a lot of the things that Meta and woke Disney have been teasing in things like Frozen, I think a lot of it came directly from Enchanted, because they started doing that whole making fun of themselves thing in this movie. Because the opening scene is her as a cartoon character singing about how she wants to marry a prince and find true love, and then she falls into the arms of Prince Edward, and he's like, your name is Giselle, we'll be married tomorrow, and they have a love duet right then and there, and the next day they're getting married, and then she falls through the portal, and it's like Kristoff in Frozen. It's like, wait a second, you agreed to marry a guy you just met? Yeah, she was in the bridal dress and everything. So I think that's what they were really mocking, not just the Disney trope, but that movie and all that other stuff. It's such a fun movie. I love the music in that movie. My favorite songs from that are "How Do You Know" and "So Close." Still waiting on somebody to make me a nice family opera fan video with that song, by the way. I'm not a big fan of Patrick Dempsey, I'll be honest. I've barely seen anything he's in, although I know he played McDreamy. I still haven't seen it. I don't care. But that is such a good movie. I have so much fun watching that one. I think I love it for Susan Sarandon more than anything else. I'm a huge fan of hers. And the last one I've got written down on my list, keep in mind this was a list of almost 40 movies, pared down to 13 because I just wasn't in the mood to try and stand up for all of them, is 2014, The Fault in Our Stars. Here we go with the heavy again. Starring Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort, Laurie Dern, and Willem Dafoe. Two teenage cancer patients fall in love. That's basically the only summary I got. Yeah, that one, it's a teen romance. It's a tragic romance. It's one of those not quite Oscar bait films, but it feels like it wants to be. It's heavy. The book is just as good, if not better. There are problems with the book. There are problems with the movie, but I still adore it. I can't watch it without bawling my eyes. I love a movie that will make me bawl my eyes out. You guys know this based on my TV episodes and stuff that I like. If it can make me cry, it's a go-to immediately for me. I'm one of those people that I'll go and watch something just to make myself cry sometimes, because then I don't have to turn into crazy bitch woman from having all that crap pent up inside of me. Oh, anyway, time to talk about my favorite ships. And I had that piece of paper in my hand. Where is it? Ah, there we go. So this is my ships list. Can you read it? And you can see I've gone by show or movie or book or whatever. And let's start with the one with, well, one of the ones with the most. The Vampire Diaries. I've got a lot of ships I love in that one because we had Damon and Elena, who were one of the earliest will they, won't they couples, even though Elena was banging his brother Stefan for the first couple of seasons. And I don't care how toxic their relationship is. I apparently like toxic relationships, maybe because my relationship is a gentle toxic compared to this stuff. And let's face it, all girls love a bad boy, at least in theory. So I love their romance. She's so level-headed and she makes him want to be a better person. She doesn't force him to be a better person, but then again, she puts up with a lot of his shit. Yay, Damon. That's damn right. Damn right, Dawn. Yay, Damon. The good brother that thinks he's bad and kind of actually is. But we forgive him. Then we got Klaus and Caroline, another bad boy. Klaus is like the villain of the entire Vampire Diaries story that he's in. He gets to be a hero of his own story later, and we'll talk about another ship from that show. But in the Vampire Diaries, I would have given anything to see Klaus and Caroline together and happy and not just having that one moment bang out in the woods. Because you could tell he really, really, really cared about her and he wanted to do things to make her smile and he would defend her honor if he thought it was necessary. But we all know Klaus does things in entirely the wrong way. And my last one from the Vampire Diaries is Enzo and Bonnie. This one took me a couple of times watching the series to really warm up to, but as much of a dick as Enzo is for most of his time in the series, and as much of a bitch as Bonnie can be, they always stand by their friends. Like, they don't care how much their friends screw them over and how much they might want to kill their friends once they've been screwed over. When push comes to shove, they will both stand by their friends and they will both stand by each other. And they try their damnedest to treat each other with love and equality. And they are just such a cute couple together. And I really wish things could have worked out for them. I really do. All right. I've got one ship. I thought about putting a couple of other ships in here, but I've got one specific ship from Lost, and that's Claire and Charlie. I really, really, really wanted more Claire and Charlie, and I really wanted it to work, but then they fucked us over and broke our hearts. And what else can I say about that? Those two are so adorable. Again, probably a little toxic, but they worked so well for each other, and I absolutely loved it. I did. By the way, Emily de Ravine, who played Claire, is in my #1 ship on this entire page, which is the next one listed for Once Upon a Time. I've got 4 ships in Once Upon a Time, and that is Rumpelstiltskin and Belle. Y'all know me. I love a bad boy. I love redemption arcs, and their romance of a will they, won't they, give him a fucking redemption arc and let him earn her. Let him win her. Let him deserve her. I was crying so hard the entire series for that. I just let it work. Let it work. Oh, I loved Rumple and Belle. Rumbelle. I loved it so freaking much. Then we had Robin Hood and Regina Mills, otherwise known as the Outlaw Queen, since Regina Mills was the evil queen from Snow White. And they were so sweet together, and I wish that one could have worked out too. Yes, poor Charlie. I know there's a lag going on now. I'm like, you said poor Charlie. I don't know if you're just typing slow or if there's like a 4-minute lag here. But that's okay. We're still getting through this. But yeah, I loved Robin Hood and I loved Regina together. Fun fact, I just found out, because I wouldn't have recognized him otherwise, Tom Ellis from Lucifer fame originally played Robin Hood in the series, but it was only for 1 episode. The first episode Robin Hood appeared in, it was Tom Ellis. And then Sean Maguire replaced him when his character became a regular the next season. And I don't know exactly why they replaced him. I don't know if they didn't like him or if Lucifer started or what exactly happened, but something got in the way. And yeah, so that would have been different and interesting. But Sean Maguire is such a cutie pie that I don't mind losing the hot Tom Ellis so much. It was really hard to tell how good Tom Ellis was looking in that first episode with Robin Hood anyway, since he was hanging from chains with his back flayed for the entire scene until he ran off. So, yeah. Kind of hard to tell. I'm going to have to go back and watch that and find out. And then we've got 2 with our main girl, Emma. We've got Hook and Emma, which was the Endgame ship. Captain Hook and Emma Swan. And that was one of the cases where they started off as enemies, but then they became lovers or friends and then lovers. And another case of that bad boy in leather, with that awesome guy liner. Practically like the Goblin King. He was almost sparkly. He's so rock and roll. Trying to win the main character's heart. But then there was the OG pairing, which was Neil and Emma, otherwise known as Balefire and Emma, because Neil was Rumpelstiltskin's little boy. And they had a little boy together. What's that? I just saw a meme the other day, actually a couple weeks ago, but I saw it again. It said, "Spoiler alert, your baby will what? Blah blah. What is it? Your baby and my baby will have a baby, and then their baby will become your stepmom's baby." Yeah, complicated. But it was just that relationship was so sweet. They were both kind of criminals together when she was a teenager, and they hooked up and they started doing stuff together to survive. And they had a baby, although he wasn't there for that. And it was just so cute, so cute. And it's one of those things that once you found out they had that relationship, just it lasted the entire series. Like their romance, even though she went off and had a happy ending with someone else, and you could see the strength that kind of gave her just that little glint of strength through the whole series. All right, a slightly more controversial one, and I'll just be very brief about it. The Host by Stephenie Meyer of Twilight fame. And I'm talking about Wanda and Ian, and I just think those 2 are so sweet together, and they're so heartbreaking, and I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, now I'm going to give you my 2 big ones from the originals, the sister show of the Vampire Diaries. And we've got Klaus again, but this time with the psychiatrist Camille, and Klaus loves his blondes, and Camille doesn't take Klaus's shit. He could hurt her and does on multiple occasions, and she knows it and she takes that into consideration when she's dealing with him. But she will call him out and she will tell him how it is, and she will, oh my god, these two make me cry so much, so often through the whole series. And then there's the little romance that only took place for about a half a season, but I would have bought into that so hard, which was Josh and Aiden, the vampire werewolf Romeo and Romeo romance. And it was just the sweetest relationship in the world. I loved these two together. And that was another one that just kind of like Neil and Emma, even though it didn't last the whole series, you felt the repercussions of it for the rest of it. Because yeah, Josh tries, I mean, something happens and Josh loses Aiden and he doesn't date later on and things keep happening to his boyfriends in the whole series. Poor Josh. But you just feel that love through the whole thing, and there's a lovely payoff towards the end of the final season. Okay. Brief one for the original TV series Beauty and the Beast, although even though I stopped watching pretty early, I guess you could say I shipped for the remake of Beauty and the Beast as well, the TV series. Vincent and Catherine. Catherine Chandler and Vincent Wells, played by Ron Perlman and Linda Hamilton in the original series. These two were my OG ship. Like, I fell in love with these two before the Disney Beauty and the Beast came out. I fell in love with these two before I knew that I could ship the Scarecrow and Dorothy, and I just, believe me, I've found some interesting videos on YouTube involving that. We're not going to get into that, though. I probably should have put that down as a ship, though, because I do ship Dorothy and the Scarecrow. You bet your ass I do. Anyway, we're not going into that. Vincent and Catherine were the sweetest couple, and with the telepathic link that Vincent had to Catherine, he was always running to her rescue. I wish Catherine had been able to be more of a badass, because I'm like, you know what? Linda Hamilton's already been in the Terminator. She can kick ass. It's okay. Let her kick ass. Well, no. No, I guess Terminator 2, where she was kicking ass, didn't come out until after Beauty and the Beast. I guess that makes sense. Anyway. We got Frozen, Kristoff and Anna, although that's obviously much more for Frozen 2. And yes, I have seen Frozen 2. And I think they are an absolutely wonderful, wonderful romance. I really do. They've had time to get to know each other. They've had time to fall in love. They have a solid relationship. And even though in Frozen 2, these two characters actually spend a lot of time apart, and Kristoff has a lot of reasons to wonder, are we growing apart and should I even keep pursuing this? But in the end, not only do they tell each other, hey, it's okay. My love is not that fragile. We're going to get, things have been happening, but my love's not that fragile. We're good. But Kristoff has this one moment where they've been going through this separation. These things have been happening to them that have kept them miscommunication and separate and stuff for most of the movie. But he catches her in a moment where she's in distress. Not the biggest deal, okay, a brief moment, damsel in distress, whatever. But he caught her. And he's like, what are you trying to do? What do you need? And she tells him, and he's just like, got it. Like, what she says is something that sounds nuts. Like, I have to do that. And he's just, I'm here. Because that's what it is. He catches her. First thing he says is, I'm here. And then he says, what do you need? He doesn't berate her. He doesn't scold her. He doesn't get mad at her. He's just, I'm right here, and what do you need? And I've got this. We're going to do this. And I'm like, that is relationship goals, but not as much as my next ship, which is Gomez and Morticia fucking Addams. From the Addams family, that is number one relationship goals. To have two kids and that much passion for each other, and to still have that romance, and to have that understanding for each other and their family and that support. Everybody should want to be Morticia and Gomez Addams, whether you're into the freaky deaky stuff they are or not. Like, they are hashtag relationship goals. And then I've just got two more ships to talk about, and these are from the books by Marissa Meyer, The Lunar Chronicles, young adult sci-fi fantasy romance novels based on fairy tales. And there's Cinder and Kai, Lynn Cinder and Emperor Kai. Yeah, the Cinderella story, which is amazing. This is one story that encompasses 4 books, and then there's a prequel, and I think there are mini novels out there too. But it starts with Cinder and Kai, and their relationship develops over the books. But the Cinderella story, in and of itself, the girl going to the ball, losing her shoe, having the wicked stepmother's stepsisters, all the pivotal things about that story are in the first book. And then Cress and Carswell Thorne, Captain Carswell Thorne. It's kind of like, I want to say Princess Leia and Han Solo, but it's not. It's more like, well, it is Rapunzel because Cress is Rapunzel. But if you think Rapunzel from the movie Tangled, no, actually, she's not even strong enough for that. She's a lot more naive and childlike and sheltered. But that's the closest I can come. Is that version of a character of that Rapunzel? She's just more timid. She's more mousy than that. Uh, I would say if Luna Lovegood, the actress, I forget her name all the time. I'm sorry, that played Luna Lovegood should play Cress. That's what I think. And Han Solo got together. So if Rapunzel from Tangled and Han Solo got together, because Carswell Thorne is unashamedly a Han Solo knockoff, and they're just so sweet together because she's got this raging crush on this guy, but she's been a prisoner on a satellite in space her whole life, and she's never interacted with almost anybody except for her captors. And she knows who this guy is because of news feeds and stuff. So she's already got this huge, huge crush on him. And then he's like this devastating flirt when they meet. And he's always flirting with everybody. And she takes it so seriously, like, oh my God, he'd never like me and he's not into me. But he actually is into her. And he's so secretly insecure that he can't help but like be a egotistical, flirtatious maniac with everybody, including her, but not so much with her because she's the one he's actually interested in and doesn't want to get shot down. And it's so funny and so cute and so tragic. And oh my God, I love this. I love that series. You really should watch the Lunar Chronicles. I had a lot of other ones written down initially. Like I had Crocodile Dundee written down. I thought about putting in movies like Valmont and the Dangerous Liaisons, which are 2 different movies based on the same book. Cruel Intentions is based on the same book too. But I ultimately decided that, yes, they are romances, but the romance was twisted and fucked up in that story, and in ways that I really don't want to talk about, in ways that just you can't appreciate the relationship and the romances in those. So I kept a few of my fucked up ones because of the misogyny involved or whatever. But that's kind of all I got to say about that. It's a shorter review. I love my romances. I don't have as many that I love so much. I really want to talk about them. Not like when I had the 5+ hours of horror movies that I wanted to talk about that YouTube stole from me. So that's it, guys. Thank you for being here, Dawn. For anybody else in the future, thank you for coming. I want to let you guys know I'm thinking about, since I'm apparently never going to get a new laptop or a computer, and I'm never going to be able to get an editor to start making my reviews again, I'll probably just start watching movies and then doing short live streams in order to review the stories. They won't be to try and get people in to have a conversation, although of course if people come in while I'm doing my live stream, we can talk about the movie I'm reviewing together. But I think I'm just going to start having short live streams just to put my reviews out there, because I have something like 900 something movies that I own, and whether I love them all or whether I just want to go through them and start talking about them to get my channel going or not. I do have the problem that I'm not a horror channel. I'm not a musical channel. I don't have my niche. I just want to talk about everything. So that seems to be hurting me in some ways. It feels like it's hurting my channel. So any suggestions or advice I can get in regards to that without saying, well, just dump everything and pick one, because that's not going to happen. I've got way too many thoughts about everything. I don't want to do that. But for those of you who see this in the future, thank you for watching my video. Feel free to comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I guess I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.